Good morning, and welcome to our praxis project. This group includes Angela Liu, Connor O'Toole, John Lewis, and Morgan Mueller. We were assigned the topic of lack of affordable housing, focusing on Cleveland in particular. Lack of affordable housing is a crisis that continues to occur throughout the world, but we, as a society, do little to nothing to prevent it from continuing. This is not something that people do voluntarily. Instead, this is an act of involuntary. Since they do not have the ability to afford a house, they are forced to live in their cars or on the streets because the cost of housing units are unreasonably high. Majority of the people who are living in severe conditions are working and have some source of income, but the area they are living in does not offer enough houses that they could afford to buy or even rent. Housing option costs tend to be high because when cities are being developed with these high-tech jobs, they tend to build more expensive homes because the majority of people living in these bigger cities can afford them. They do not take into consideration the people who are still working multiple jobs to barely afford rent or may not even be able to ever. Although some people are able to afford houses, the houses they are living in are in very poor condition, whether that be bug-infested, disease-prone, or any other things. In Cleveland, just like any major city, the demand for less expensive homes exceeds the supply drastically. Researchers believe that with the lack of affordable housing crisis, it's causing many families with young children to be put at risk of health and education problems. In the Cleveland School District alone, there have been a record of 3,000 homeless children that are constantly having to jump from school to school because their home status is never steady. Today, many millennials can only dream of having the title of homeowners because buying a home in today's economy is not possible. Nobody should have to spend the majority of their income on housing, but that is exactly what is happening to those who are able to afford rent. In fact, research has shown that people should only be spending 30% of their income on payments. Together, my group got to discover more about how this is affecting the community around us, and not just those struggling financially. We learned all about this problem through extensive research and meeting with professionals in this field. We were also able to volunteer at a charity center to see firsthand on what it was like to live in such a brutal environment, all because they're unable to afford a payment for a house, apartment, or condo.
Throughout our praxis project, our group encountered many examples of Catholic social teachings, charisms, and other examples in Catholic ideals. Our project was full of these special parts of the Catholic faith. For example, one of the main facets of our problem is a call to family and community. Many people grappling with the problems of the cost of housing feel that they do not have a strong supporting community, and this can lead to issues of loneliness and separation from a possible family or community. One way that this problem is being remedied is with an organization called CHN Housing Partners Cleveland. CHN strives to help aid people with their housing issues. This is helping people have cheaper living options and have a healthier and happier life within a community in a home. When our group visited CHN Housing for our interview, they presented us with the local impacts of this injustice. Tens of thousands of people in our community are struck with rent instability and are struggling to split pay to rent and other important parts of a budget like food, school for their children, and other expenses. This problem, described by experts at CHN, is helped with all of the things described by Catholic thought and teaching. Another example of a Catholic ideal found within the issue of affordable housing is the common good. The positive outcome of our praxis project, quality and affordable housing for all, is a net positive for all. The way to get this net positive is through kindness and service to those in need. Donating money to services like CHN Housing, or advocating for laws that help aid disadvantaged people in need of housing by writing letters or calling our local and state governments is a great way to fight against this injustice in our society. It is a Catholic ideal to reach this common good, and when we work together as a community, we can work closer to a better future. A charism that is very important to the injustice of unaffordable housing is mercy. It is very important that we as a society give mercy to those who are in dire need of support from their community. Mercy is also a great way for us all as a society to participate and help this issue of affordable housing. Catholic thought and Catholic teachings is a great way to view this injustice of a lack of affordable housing.
The United States government provides on housing issues, including grants and loans, names of agencies relating to housing development, unemployment help, and housing taxes. In history, U.S. government passed the Fair Housing Act to ensure that people cannot be blocked from buying a home because of their race, religion, or sex. However, there are still people who are being discriminated against and experiencing difficulties in finding a place to live. The government and citizens need to work together to make the issue of lack of affordable housing better. For example, the government could enact the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, which would solve all financial problems for this issue. One of our group's essential questions is, how does the lack of affordable quality housing affect citizens' living conditions in different areas? To answer this question, we must first understand what the lack of affordable housing is. It is when low-income citizens cannot afford the price of rent. Therefore, they become homeless as they do not have enough money to afford a home. These living conditions for the homeless are brutal. Here is what it is like in our own city. This tent is what some may call home. This is what the inside of their tent looks like. Food and trash are just left. This is their form of laundry. The other essential question our group made was, how can we come together to give more citizens a chance to live in a home? The answer I would have gave if asked at the start of praxis is to donate. In order to make a difference in the long run, we must work to perform acts of justice. Acts of justice are deeds that can help someone for more than just a few days. Our group can come together to help the homeless community by following the model of the Westside Catholic Center. They are always performing works of justice. In an interview with John Litton from the Westside Catholic Center, he told us about their program that helps people to get jobs. The Westside Catholic Center has a homeless shelter where they have 35 beds that are almost always full. As seen by the works of the Westside Catholic Center, all of this is possible if we work together to make a difference.
Praxis provides our group an opportunity to put aside our identities as students and to be aware of and to become engaged in the social issues existing in our society today. In our Praxis project, my group has a chance to examine lack of affordable housing in the United States, especially in Cleveland. By researching about how to define affordable housing in the beginning, to conducting interviews with experts in the field, to volunteer at a homeless shelter in the end, our Praxis experiences motivate us to gain the awareness about this topic. Before we started our project, we associate the lack of affordable housing directly with poverty and homelessness. We did not consider about how the following detrimental effects of the issue, such as violating human dignity, damaging people's health conditions, breaking down people's social relationships, and even taking away their lives. However, through the praxis cycle, we got to learn a lot deeper and correct some misassumptions. The lack of affordable housing is an issue that relates to homelessness, education, and individual health. According to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, affordable housing is defined as housing for which the occupants are paying no more than 30% of their income for gross housing costs, including utilities. However, as the gap between the rich and poor continues to develop, more citizens with low income are paying more than 30% of their incomes toward housing, and many cannot afford to pay rents that are out of reach. According to NIOSH, 20,000 people are currently on the waiting list for housing in the area of Greater Cleveland. To get to learn more about the lack of affordable housing in Cleveland area and how organizations and the public provide help toward the issue, our group visited CHN Housing Partners, an organization that works to develop and provide housing stability services, and we interviewed Laura Bostani, the strategic communications manager who is responsible for advertising CHN's programs and organizing meetings with CHN's partners. During our interview, Mrs. Bostani offered great insights about CHN's mission and different programs that are designed for different groups of people with different needs and different backgrounds. Mrs. Bostani explained that affordable means stable, and stable housing enables individuals in a community to thrive. She also encourages the society to respond to the issue of lack of affordable housing by advocating federal low-income house tax credit and volunteer for organizations that work to solve issues regarding affordable housing. One program CHN offers is the Lease Purchase Program, which focuses on providing housing for single families. The highlight of this program is that houses are cost-effective and built under the promise that if residents are good tenants and follows procedures of financial counseling, after 15 years, the residents could buy the house at affordable prices. Mrs. Bostani believes this program demonstrates the organization's belief in the power of permanent address, as they show their efforts to make home ownership possible for more people and to help them to find human dignity through the permanent address. Our group also interviewed John Lattin, Executive Director of the Westside Catholic Center. The Westside Catholic Center is a nonprofit organization that since 1977 has provided meals, shelter, clothing, services, advice, and numerous solutions to those in need, regardless of race, age, and religion. There are people that come into the organization who are veterans, have been alone for their entire life, got pregnant at a young age, and even some who need guidance and shelter for a little while and they figure out everything. Something our group learned is that they come to see more clearly how much of a role education, illness, and income have with being able to afford and find a house to live in. After the interview and research, our group did our action response in a charity center. Our group served the homelessness food and helped the organizers to locate canned food and other food supplies into the storage room. We helped the people who work there to organize the canned food by color-coding them and categorizing them based on their types. This experience is meaningful to us because we understood that there are many social workers who volunteer to do these things on a regular basis. This action gives a voice to the voiceless by providing sufficient food for the poor, which enables them to live healthily and find jobs that could give them roles in the society.
Throughout this praxis journey, our group learned a lot about ourselves and how grateful we truly are for the opportunities we are given throughout our lives. We are more thankful than ever for being able to have a place to sleep at night, food to eat, receiving a quality education, and having people around us that are supportive and helpful. After this school year, we would for sure be able to realize the presence of social workers and to identify the works that they do in order to help our society. Social workers protect vulnerable children and support families in need of assistance. We would also ensure that our actions and the actions of the people around us do not cause inconveniences to the works of the social workers. In addition, the future of being able to provide adequate housing for low-income families starts with our community. Everyone as an individual needs to step up and educate themselves about the homelessness issue that is going on within our society and raise additional awareness about it. It is clear that to address homelessness now and prevent it in the future, we must focus on the complex realities and comprehensive needs of the homeless children and youth by ensuring that early care, education, and further services are linked directly to any family homelessness housing initiatives. People should be able to have a place for raising a family and having emergency shelter that like earlier said, is not infested with bugs or deteriorating. It is stated that in Ohio, from the Homelessness Charity and Village organization, that if you are not making $15 an hour at a full-time job, you are not being paid a wage you can actually live on. You can't afford your rent, your utilities, your food bill, your phone bill, or your clothing bill. You are barely scraping by. We as a community need to help by donating new or used clothing, donating food, donating money,
and even the easiest way to get involved is by donating your own time. One can do this by volunteering in a nonprofit organization and making sure that the next generation does so as well. Lack of affordable housing is not an issue that can be or will be solved by just a group of people. This is why we need everyone's help. In all, Praxis Project transformed all our perspectives of viewing the social issues from students to responsible members of the community and as global citizens.